Well, I first started to write the book in 2004. I had a brief period of time when I would be able to write. I knew I'd be able to write full time, and I didn't know quite how long it would last, so I set to with a considerable sense of panic and urgency. And I really sat down with another idea in mind, which was, you know, in retrospect, a rip-off of Ulysses. So I'm very glad that didn't work out. But it was really just through working through that idea and realizing that it was pretty redundant that I happened on the first lines of A Girl Is a Half-Formed Thing. And as soon as I did that, I understood that it was a very different kind of book I was going to be writing. And it really just grew from there. And I didn't have a plot, I didn't have characters, I had nothing in mind. It grew out of the language. The story of the book is that it was rejected over a period of 9 years, and I don't really know how many rejections there were anymore. I stopped counting after a while, and I think I stopped saving them after a while too, although a few are emblazoned on my soul. But, you know, it was a very difficult and disheartening experience because you know, I understood that it was difficult to get published, and when I started to send the book out, I was prepared for some rejection, but I wasn't prepared for the rejections that I got, which were by and large, you know, incredibly positive and, you know, very admiring of the writing and the handling of the subject matter, and, you know, of some perceived courage on my part in trying this different style. But that, you know, they felt that they couldn't place it in any kind of comfortable marketing niche, and therefore, you know, we're going to turn it down. For about the first 3 years after I had written Girl, I didn't write properly, full-time, bits and bobs, and that was it. And then I realized, and it, you know, kind of similar to the point of realizing that, you know, Girl might not be published, that I would have to make a decision as to whether I was a writer or I wasn't a writer, and that being a failed writer was a choice I would have to make, and accept that I might be a failed writer. And in, you know, in that way, not that I had failed as a writer, but that I had failed to become a published writer, and whether I would continue to write if that would continue to be the case. And I decided that I would, but it was very difficult to keep the weight of that sense of failure of what I was working on. Word of the novel's death is considerably premature. I think writers and novelists particularly have to think about their form more, and I do think with the advent of the internet, you know, the purpose of the novel has to change. And really what I've been trying to do with my work is to go much deeper into the nature of what a novel is and can be. You know, I think the time for representation is over, and it's unnecessary. If you want to see what, you know, someone wearing, you know, a tracksuit with a pair of high heels and a scrunchie in their hair looks like, you don't need a novelist to describe that. You can look that up on the internet. What the novel has to do now is to describe the parts of life that cannot be described through any other form or in any other medium, and you know, use of language is going to be a big part of that.